Welcome back, everyone. It's John Wade Boggs fan. Hope all of you are having a good start to the week. Well, baseball, spring training is upon us. I see that they're starting to play some games, which is really exciting. And this may be around that time that some of you start thinking about entering into some fantasy leagues and things like that. And that's not my thing. I've never been involved with that. But since I don't really have any cards, mail day stuff to show off, I thought I'd do something a little different. Maybe have some audience participation in the form of comments to this video. And I thought I would do um, Would You Rather. So it's not baseball card related. So maybe if this video has any sense of interest, maybe I'll do a Would You Rather uh, for baseball cards and have you pick between two different cards. But for now, I'm going to do a Would You Rather with baseball players. So there's always talk about, who's the greatest this, who's the best current player here, and this and that and so on. So I just very basic. This is very, very basic. I'm going to show on the screen two position players and some of their stats. Now, this could be a retired player, it could be a current player. All right. I tried to provide stats that may not make it too obvious as to who it is. Some of you may guess, or know who it is. My goal isn't to say, okay, would you rather have Mike Trout or Ken Griffey Jr.? Okay. My goal is to look at some of their stats and from just not pretend, not knowing who they are, which type of player. And I tried to pick, I have two players for you to pick from and then two pitchers. So if you had to start your team off, okay, you get a first pick of who you want on your team. It would be interesting to see who some of you pick and why. So I tried to pick, some diverse, two diverse players. I didn't want, similar stats because then there's no point in saying would you rather. They're pretty much equal. So I tried to find two players that maybe have some positives and negatives, and two pitchers that may have some positives and negatives in their stats. And I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I just thought it would maybe interesting to do a Would You Rather to pick your first position player and first pitcher on a fantasy team. So I guess let's get right into it. So we're going to start off with the position players. And here are the two comparable stats. So we have player A. Now, player A has led all of baseball in on-base percentage 6 times. They've scored 100 or more runs 7 times. They've had 100 or more walks in a season 4 times. They nearly have a 2-to-1 walk to strikeout ratio. And for those statistical nuts out there with WAR, they have had WAR seasons of 6 or higher 8 times. All right. So let's compare player A to player B. Now here's some of player B's stats. Player B led his league in home runs 4 times. He had 100 or more RBIs 6 times. He also led the league in strikeouts 5 times. And he nearly had, almost opposite of player A, he nearly had a 2-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. And he had WAR seasons of 6 or higher 4 times. So you have player A who gets on base scores runs, puts the ball in play, doesn't strike out very often, versus player B, who obviously has more power, drives in more runs, also strikes out a lot, um, and comparable, maybe not as many WAR seasons of 6 or higher, about half than player A. So I'll leave you a minute there to figure out which one, player A or player B, you would prefer to have on your team. And by the way, what I'll be doing is at the very, very end of the video, I will let you know who the different players are, in case you're curious or you don't know who these are. So let's now turn to the pitchers. So the first pitcher option that you have, pitcher A, he led the league in strikeouts 11 times. He also led the league in walks 8 times. He had 2 20-win seasons. He led the league in innings pitched only 1 time in his career. He was the ERA leader 2 times and has a career ERA of 3.19. He has had WAR seasons of 5 or higher 7 times. And he has a career WHIP, walks plus hits per innings pitched, of 1.247. So there is pitcher A. So compare that to pitcher B. All right, pitcher B never led the league in strikeouts or walks. He had about a 3-to-1 ratio of strikeouts to walks. He also, like pitcher A, had 2 20-win seasons, but he led his league in innings pitched 5 times. He was also the ERA leader 4 times, but very similar to pitcher A, also has a career ERA of 3.16. Now, he's had 11 WAR seasons of 5 or higher compared to pitcher A, and a slightly better career WHIP of 1.143. So there you have it, pitcher A or pitcher B, and why. All right, so again, we'll see how this video goes. I don't know. I just thought it would be interesting to know whether you would choose position player A or B, or pitcher A or B, based on those stats that I gave you and why. So you have, again, a position player that is more, getting on base, scoring runs. But then you have player B, who has more power, drives in more runs, but also strikes out a lot. And for the pitchers, you have one that strikes out a lot, but also walks a lot of batters. Same sort of, wins, but you have pitcher B, maybe more innings pitched, so you can get more out of that pitcher. WAR is WAR. I don't know how much you put into the WAR numbers. Career WHIP, they're about the same. Career ERA, they're around the same. So again, it would be interesting to see which position player and which pitcher you would choose. So let's wrap this up. I have the answer to the previous video's trivia question, and then I have a quote, and then I'll let you know who the players and the pitchers are that I chose. So, okay, here is the trivia question from my last video. Who hit more home runs in his career, Cecil or Prince Fielder? And yes, a lot of you figured out that it was a trick question. A pretty interesting trick question, though. They both hit 319 homers. Father and son each hit the same number of homers in their career. Pretty interesting. All right, let's well, not completely wrap this up, but let's move on to the quote that I have and see if you can find out or figure out who said this quote. And the quote is, "I'd walk through hell in a gasoline suit to play baseball." So who said it? I'll have the answer for you in my next video. And now, if you were impatient and wanted to jump to all the way at the end of the video and find out who the players were that I were talking about, here are the different players. So player A, if you hadn't figured it out, was Wade Boggs. And player B was Reggie Jackson. So wondering if I had given you those names, would you rather have Wade Boggs or Reggie Jackson as your position player, as a position player? Again, this had nothing to do with what position they played or whatever, just on stats. Would you have had the same answer if I had told you who the players were and maybe gave you some stats? I don't know, just curious. And here are the two pitchers. Pitcher A is Nolan Ryan, and pitcher B is Greg Maddux. So there you have it. I don't know if this gets any interest at all. Like I said, I may do at some point a would you rather with baseball cards. Maybe throw two cards up next to each other and say, would you rather have this card or that card? And maybe there would be, equal value but different grades. I don't know. Maybe I can, come up with something like that in the future. Let me know if, even if you didn't like this video, if you would like to see a would you rather with baseball cards. I don't know. So hopefully I'm going to be getting a couple cards in the mail. I don't know, to show off. The other big thing, of course, is I just saw that PSA is changing their stuff up, increasing prices, doing different things with their scales and all that stuff. It doesn't directly affect me because I don't really send anything into PSA to get graded. However, I was and still am contemplating some of my vintage cards. I have BGS or BVG, the vintage from Beckett. And now that I've started a PSA vintage collection, I want to get them at some point converted over to PSA. Not to sell, just so everything's uniform. Anyway, I had thoughts of doing that. Well, part of their new changes at PSA is, at least for now, they have suspended their crossover service. So I don't have a choice. I can't cross over from BVG to PSA at this point in time. We'll see if that changes and what the cost is and all that stuff. So for now, some of my vintage graded are going to remain BVG, but I hope someday to be able to convert them over to PSA. So that's all I have for you guys. Hope you are having a good day and a good week. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.